Hello, hello. Welcome back to Uketropolis Live at our um, early time. Thank you for staying up late or getting up early if you're joining her at this odd time. It's only because I have a concert this evening and I need to get to that sound check. So thank you for rolling with the punches and welcome back. I hope everyone is doing great. I hope you're all happy and healthy and playing a lot of music. I am trying to do the same. Actually, I'm playing a lot of music every day, recording a lot of music, more than ever, actually. I've never had a time in my life where I've recorded and written so much music and released so little of it. It's kind of the flavor of the year, or at least I think that's the hallmark of the pandemic era for creative types, whether it's music or film or visual arts. I think the pandemic was just an absolute supernova of creative time. And we're going to see the effects of that for literally for years post-pandemic. It's just going to be this shock wave of what happens when you put all the creative people in their coop and you lock the door for 3 years. You're just going to get this incredible wellspring of creative work. And that's certainly what I've found with my own stuff, whether it's the podcast or Uketropolis courses or things like Ukeheads, that project coming to completion very shortly. Champagne Weather, my new band with Anne, all of that stuff incubated during COVID, and now it's just sort of bursting out into the world. And so we have a show tonight as part of this tour that we're doing, starting here in Nova Scotia and then hitting Toronto and British Columbia on the way. So all that to say, thanks for going with it and for being here in spite of the time change. So yeah, thanks for saying hi in the chat. And anytime you have a comment or a question, the chat is a good place for it. I appreciate any questions that come up during the flow of these live sessions, and I'll try to give my 2 bits. I'm not going to say I'll answer them. I don't always have the answers, but I'll certainly give my opinion on whatever questions you might have. If I don't get to them all, sorry, but I'll do my best. So oops, that was the wrong button. Let's see now. Yeah, Mary said, it feels very odd to see you in daylight. Yeah, I know. It's weird. The room really is that messy. Well, actually more so because I've got all my stage gear for the show tonight all ready to go out the door. So okay, so our usual format is what we're going to stick to, and that means looking at some questions, at least to get us started, from what's been happening in Uketropolis this month, or at least the past couple of weeks. What are some of the questions and conversations that have been coming out in the courses and in the community? And I guess let's start with this one. This question comes from Betsy, who's just getting into Americana ukulele, which is, as you know, the newest course on Uketropolis, and it centers on, not surprisingly, Americana styles. That's bluegrass picking, blues, clawhammer, country style Travis picking, and it's really fun. Betsy is starting on that course, and she says she has a condition which a lot of people have, which is this trigger finger, and it just makes it difficult to play in the conventional way. And so I was saying, have you tried slide ukulele? And we talked a little bit about how that really facilitates playing music that you may not be able to play if you have a repetitive strain injury, or if you have something about your your physiology, your hands, that don't allow playing in the sort of conventional way. Not only does slide ukulele open up those avenues for you, but it's actually just really fun in and of itself. It's something that I encourage everyone to try, regardless. So I said to Betsy, have you given slide ukulele a try? It's a beautiful way of playing and could really open some doors for you. And she said, yes, absolutely. That was my plan. This is partly why I joined Americana Ukulele. And so I thought I would sort of springboard off of this conversation about slide ukulele to make sure that everyone, even if you haven't seen my demonstration of slide ukulele on YouTube, which I recommend you check out. It's called Are You My Sunshine? It's kind of a bluesy rendition of, I can't even say it the normal way. It's a bluesy rendition of You Are My Sunshine. Are You My Sunshine? And it's all done with slide ukulele. So here's something we can do together right now. If you have a slide, whether it's metal or glass or ceramic, or even if you don't have a slide, you can literally take a pen or a pencil or anything with a straight edge. I just happen to have a clothespin here. I'm not even sure. I've never tried this, but like anything with a straight edge, will work. A hard straight edge. I've done this with a pencil. You can do it with a pen. There's a reason it's called bottleneck slide, is because you can use a bottle on it. You can use the edge of a mic stand to slide on the strings. You can use a lot of things. I've got some drumsticks over here. I could probably use a drumstick to slide on my ukulele. Actually, that works really well, the drumstick. You just have to be kind of gentle. Let's try it together. If you've never done this before, today's the day. If you've done it before, today's another day to slide on your ukulele. So just take whatever it is. I could use the drumstick, but I am going to use my glass slide here and just put it across. I like to start on like the 3rd fret. I don't know. It's just sort of, it's not too far that way and it's not too far this way, just take this slide thingy and put it across the 3rd fret and see if you can get a sound. Now, if you've tried slide before, you know this already, but for those of you who are just coming to it for the first time, you need to put the slide right over top of the fret wire. I know that's a bit different than when you play the strings, with your fingers. You're putting your fingers between the wires, but here we want to put it right over top of that fret wire. Notice I'm giving it a bit of a wiggle back and forth. I like that sort of warbly sound. It makes it sound a bit like Hawaiian steel guitar, makes it sound a bit like the human voice. Give that little vibrato, that little warble to the sound by just moving the slide down toward the pegs and then back up, down toward the pegs, then back up. And as you get it going a little faster, it starts to give that nice vibrato effect. So this, by the way, is just us using the ukulele in standard tuning. Okay, we'll get to tunings in just a second. There's a couple of really fun options I want you to try. But this is just standard tuning. I'm in G, C, E, A right now with the high 4th string. My dog has fleas. So there's nothing wonky or different about the way that I'm tuning my ukulele yet. And I'm just putting the slide straight across the 3rd fret. Now, just for practice, you can move it up to the 5th fret. I don't know why that sounds so good. That chord is so nice. And just sort of moving and slinking your way between the 3rd to the 5th fret and back to the 3rd fret. There's something about this that has a very kind of jazzy, kind of relaxing quality to it. And what I love about the slide is that it encourages you to take your time with the music, because now it's not just a matter of teleporting between frets. It's a matter of journeying between frets. And what a nice change from the way we typically approach the fretboard. We always think of, you're on the third fret and then you're on the fifth fret. You're instantly going from here to there, as if you were saying, beam me up, Scotty, from the third fret to the fifth fret, and you're instantly traveling from one to the next. Well, the slide says, no, we're not going to teleport from the third to the fifth. We're going to row the boat from the third fret to the fifth fret. We're going to take our time. And you know what? We're doing that on purpose because we like getting there as much as we like being there. So you can see that playing with the slide suddenly puts you in a whole different frame of mind. It's almost like a different philosophy suddenly that you adopt just by slipping this onto your finger. It's almost like you go into a different mindset, almost like Lord of the Rings or something, Lord of the Slide. You put this slide on your finger and you sort of turn into another being, musically speaking. Third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret, and back again, and just moving around. I bought this slide when I was in my teens. And see if you can relate to this. I bought this slide because I thought one day I would use it. I bought this slide and it sat in my sort of trinkets box up there for like maybe a decade. Like, seriously, like 10 years before I really felt like I was ready to try it out. I had it there, It's like a lot of people buy stuff before they're really ready to use it. I've heard people bought my Duets for One book, for example. They haven't tried any of the arrangements, but they know that one day they really want to be able to play like that. So they bought the book, and that's a step. You put it under your pillow in the morning, you see if you can play any of them. And I don't know, just having it around is a step. One time, I remember I was in Hawaii, actually. I walked by a little kiosk that had these hats. These were caps. Do you remember the Kangol caps that were kind of fashionable at one time? It was like an old man cap, kind of like a tweed woven thing with sort of a point in the front. And I was like, I would like to someday be a person who would wear that cap. And it was expensive too. I remember it being like $60 or something. And I bought it right then and there. I was in probably my early 20s. And I'm like, there is no way I'm going to wear this cap yet. And it stayed in my closet for years. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, I'm ready to be the cap guy. I was like, and it was there. It was there for me because I knew one day I would be that guy who could actually wear that in public. And it worked. For a little while, I was like the cap guy. I was like the guy wearing the grandpa cap. And it was cool. I felt like I could pull it off. Now I've moved on to Uketropolis branded baseball caps. But anyway, the point is, you can buy a slide aspirationally. Know that it's there. Know it's a good thing. Know that one day you're going to get to it. And it'll happen. There's something about the slide that is magical, that sort of beckons to us. And when we get there, it's the right time. Okay, so let's talk about tunings for a second. And by the way, I see Angie saying, I don't feel so bad now. My slide has been lying around for 2 years. And I already tried to play 2 songs from the Duets book. Way to go, Angie. You're doing it, and you will get there. That's awesome. Okay, so Oh, and just to also address a couple of comments in the chat here. Merrick is saying, do you use the slant bar technique on ukulele? Which means that the slide is not perfectly perpendicular to the frets, but that you're moving it at an angle like that to get certain intervals that just don't happen to be straight across. That is a great question. I personally haven't used it like that, but I think that's just my lack of courage. I do think it's possible, especially if you're doing one string, skip a string, and do another string. Like you could maybe do sixths. Like that. And so you're getting like a major sixth and a minor sixth. Like that. Woo! Actually, that's the first time I've tried that. So that's the slided one. Slided. No, that should be a minor. Like that. Okay, so with a bit of practice, yeah, you could definitely do a slant bar thing. I don't think you'll get enough slant to do adjacent strings for like thirds, but strings that are separated by a neutral string in the middle, I think you could get away with finding some sixths, which I think is the hardest word in the English language to actually say, sixths. You could probably do that. And thank you for the suggestion. That's something new for me. We're all learning. So let's talk about tunings for a second, because there are 2 tunings for the slide that I think you should explore right off the bat. And they all have to do with the A string. This A string is the one that is going to change your world. Now, you can either tune that A string down a little bit, or you can tune that A string up a little bit. Either way, you're going to run into a beautiful new tuning, which is an open tuning, meaning that you can bar straight across and get a nice chord. Let's start with the one where you tune the A string down a little bit. You loosen the string. You're less likely to, break a string. So let's start with this one. Instead of an A note, just loosen the string until it becomes a G note. And you can check if it's a G note because it should be the same note as your 4th string. So you can compare those two and make sure they're the same note. Okay, so the outer two strings are now both G. And the inner strings are just what they always are, C and E. So strum that, and you get a great big major chord. Bum, ba-da-bum, bum, bum, bum. Without even trying, now we have this open, what is it? C chord, right? It's all the notes of the C chord. C, E, and G. We just happen to have 2 G's for good measure. Okay? So it's a C chord, and we can call this open C tuning. Big, resonant, and full because of those double G's. Now, even without the slide, let's say, can we find some chords here? Take your first finger and just lie it down across some frets. Let's say on these 1st and 2nd fret. That's kind of cool. If anybody can name that tune, name it. I think it's the Red Hot Chili Peppers' Roller Coaster of Love. But I know there's other tunes that do that riff as well. So that's just the open strings, 1st fret, 2nd fret. Let's go to the 3rd fret, 4th, and 5th. You'll probably have a dot on the 5th fret, and that's handy because the 5th fret is a very important fret when we're playing slide ukulele. It's an important fret no matter what, which is why it gets a dot usually. It's just a really handy one. Let's go to the 7th fret as well. Also a very important fret, slide or no slide. The 7th fret is a very important, powerful, useful fret that you will spend a lot of time on. So it gets a dot as well, at least on almost all ukuleles. The 5th and the 7th have dots on them. So we can play dot on the 5th, dot on the 7th, and open strings. And now you're already hearing this sort of emerging chord progression. That would be the 5th fret, 7th, and the open strings. Try it one more time. Now this is all without the slide, remember. We are just exploring what happens with an alternate tuning and one finger straight across the fretboard. Now, whether or not you are going to get into playing slide ukulele is kind of beside the point right now. The point is that we have discovered a more accessible way to play ukulele, to play some meaningful chords that sound good. And if you have students who are struggling with the conventional way of playing, always keep this in your back pocket. Now, there could be a multitude of reasons why they are struggling with the conventional chords. Playing a C chord is usually pretty okay for most people, but playing an F chord and a G7 can be, in the first lesson, a big challenge. Maybe this is the pattern interrupt, the way of jolting them out of a rut that gets the student moving again. So those of you who are in the teaching world, take note of this. Have this in your back pocket. I don't often use this as a workaround, but I feel more confident knowing that I could get a student out of a jam by retuning the ukulele just very slightly, showing where the 5th and the 7th frets are, and then I give them an alternate route, an alternate pathway to learning and participation. Let's pick up the slide now and do exactly the same thing. 5th fret. Sounds great if you give it a little wiggle while you're strumming. Yeah, I know that's like rubbing your belly and tapping your head at the same time, but try it. I'm getting a little metallic buzz in there. You hear that? That probably means I'm pressing down too hard on the slide, and so I'm trying to just get the right angle and the right pressure so that I don't hear that metallic sound. And then sliding up to the 7th. And then the open strings. So let's play a song. Let's play any 3-chord song that you can think of. Drop a suggestion in the chat, and while you do that, let's play one of my all-time favorite 3-chord songs. It's called Another Night. This song is literally the song I sing to warm up for pretty much every gig. It's a wonderful 3-chord sort of old country song. And see if you can follow me. It's just the open strings or the 5th fret or the 7th fret. And just by the way, the open strings are the C chord, the 5th fret is the F chord, and the 7th fret is the G chord. Here we go. See if you can follow along. 1, 2, 3. The wind is blowing round my cabin. 5th fret. I hate to hear 7th, that lonesome sound. Back to open. I'm all alone and so downhearted. 5th fret, since my true love. 7th, she ain't around. Same pattern. I hate to see the sun a-sinking. 5th fret, another night to toss and turn. Another night to dream about her. Same thing. Another night for her I'll yearn. And when you go back to that open C, I like to put my first finger gently across that piece of plastic or bone that we call the nut, right? This is where the strings run over to get to the tuning pegs. Now, instead of having a full ringing resonant open C chord, I like to mute it down a little bit, just dampen the enthusiasm of that chord slightly and up the percussive quality of it just by putting my index finger over that nut and allowing the flesh of the finger to just lightly touch the open strings. It turns this into this. Hear the difference between this and this? Right? That second option feels much more controlled, much more like you've got the lid on it, like you're not just letting everything all hang out. You know, you've got a little control over those resonating strings. And sometimes that's what you want, especially if it's a more rhythmic accompaniment. I hate to see the sun a-sinking. That's got a little bit of rhythmic pa, 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 pa. And I lose that if I just let the strings run free. You know, if it's like just free range open strings. I hate to see the sun sinking. Another, it just kind of, it's like a whitewashing a wall. It's just like there's no definition anymore, as opposed to I hate to see the sun a-sinking. To my ear, that sounds a lot more musical and exciting and interesting. That's the kind of thing you might do with the palm as well, if you know how to do that, palm muting. But I like this idea of sort of first finger muting at the absolute edge of the open string. Sometimes you'll see bass players, electric bass players, they'll attach what looks like a sweatband for their wrist, but they'll actually put it around that very same place on their electric bass. And I've never asked any of them why they do that, but I'm always assuming that it's because of this very same thing, that when they hit the open strings, it doesn't go wild, and it just sort of keeps that cool muted sound even on the open strings. So, hey, we have one of those built right in, and it's called your index finger. So try that out. Now, there's one more tuning that we should try here. Remember I said you can go down a little bit with the A string to get a tuning, or you can go up a little bit with the A string to get a nice tuning. So let's go up a little bit. Right now, that A string's on G. Let's bring it up to where we started. That's just A, which is the regular standard tuning. Oops. Yeah, a little bit more like this. Now we're back to square one. What happens if we just raise the pitch of that A string a little bit? From A to B flat. Now don't worry, this will not, I'm 99% sure, this will not break your string. Yes, it's adding a little bit of extra tension to that A string. But you know what? I grew up playing in the D6 tuning, where that string is a B note, which is even higher than what we've gotten to here. I would always use the same strings as the standard tuning, and I very rarely, if ever, broke a string while tuning. So don't be afraid to experiment bringing the pitch of your strings up just slightly. Like this, one semitone. That is not going to hurt anybody. So now we have, my dog has fleas. Not the standard tuning, right? G, C, E, B flat. And this gives us not a C chord anymore, but a C7 chord. A C7 chord, without even trying with the open strings, is now C7. What happens now if we put our slide in our favorite spot, the 5th fret? Oh yeah. And back to the open strings. What happens if we put our slide in our other favorite spot, which is the 7th fret? Here we go now. Back to the 5th fret. And to the open strings. Okay, now we have 3 beautiful bluesy sounding chords, all open strings, which is C7, 5th fret, which is now F7, 7th fret, which is G7. Okay, if you're getting that really buzzy metallic sound that I'm sometimes getting here, and you don't like that sound, you'll notice that I'm trailing behind the slide with my index finger. I don't know if you can see that on the webcam here, but I'm trailing a finger behind the slide, and that finger's only job is to just touch the strings. It's sort of the this is a Canadian analogy, but on the back of a Zamboni, when they're cleaning the ice, there's like a big vinyl flap that comes down, and it prevents all of the hot water from sort of spurting out the back of the Zamboni as they're grooming the ice. And if it weren't for that flap at the back of the Zamboni, it would just be a big mess of water and shredded ice and stuff spraying. So that's your flap. This is an analogy that's only going to work for you if you spent half the winter in your local ice rink watching your son practice hockey. But anyway, if that doesn't land for you, fine. Just believe me that your index finger needs to follow in behind the slide. It could be your middle finger too. It needs to trail behind it and just touch the strings. Just be that vinyl flap that follows in behind and makes sure that nothing is spraying out and causing problems. And that will really help to clean up the sound and to tighten up the sound. So let's do something like, let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. If you ever go to Houston, you better look right. You better not stagger, and you better not fight the sheriff. He will arrest you, he'll carry you down. And when the jury finds you guilty, you're penitentiary bound. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a ever loving light on me. Okay, so I mean, take any 3-chord song that you want to make sort of sound bluesy, or a 3-chord song that already is in that blues idiom, and just see what happens. I'm thinking St. Louis blues, something St. Louis blues that I taught in the ukulele jazz course. I hate to see the evening sun go down. Something at a nice slow tempo. Hate to see the evening sun go down. 'Cause my baby, she done left this town. You notice that sometimes when I'm killing time on the C chord, I'm using one other chord to spice things up, and that is the 12th fret. And you know from your experience that the 12th fret usually has not just one dot, but two dots on it. Why is it so special that it gets two dots? Well, because it's the same notes as the open strings, only way higher. So anything you can do at the 0 fret, you can do at the 12th fret. And it's the same thing, just way higher. So if you're getting tired sitting out over here, try it here. And that makes time pass because you have a variation to go to. So there's a few ideas to get you started with slide ukulele. I think it is a very fun, very exciting way of playing the ukulele that just opens new doors. It opens new doors for your fingers, your mind, your musical soul. It opens doors to new genres of music. And maybe most importantly, for me personally, it helps you to take more time and to savor harmonies and melodies. Because on the ukulele, we do tend to be in a rush. And maybe it's just me, but probably not. We tend to be in a rush on the ukulele because it's so rhythmic and it's so fun and it's so upbeat. We don't get a lot of opportunities to play lyrically, to sing the notes, to explore the spaces between the frets, and to enjoy the ride from one place to another. That's not something that seems built in to the way we typically play the ukulele. Many other things are built into the way we play ukulele on a daily basis. Fun, energy, friendship, camaraderie. These are all great things. But the slow uke movement, that hasn't happened yet. It doesn't invite that pace. But the slide ukulele does get us there, gets us much closer to that place. And for that and many other reasons, I hope it's something that you take the time to explore. So thank you to Betsy for the conversation around slide ukulele and accessibility that led to this whole train of thought. And if you search for a slide ukulele or Are You My Sunshine on YouTube, you'll find my demonstration there, which can lead you to a couple of free lessons on slide ukulele that you can get at Uketropolis. So thanks again, Betsy, and I hope that this opens some doors for you all. All right, and it's time to look at, I love the comments in the chat about hockey. Oh yeah. A few good things in the chat here, saying, talking about the different kinds of slide, like metal slide. Rick is saying it was too small for my ring or middle finger. Sometimes you can't often try these slides on in the store. They're in a package. So, make sure the slide fits, or at least try to sort of eyeball it. So that's a good tip. Good. I see people say, I just bought one. Yeah. Yeah, Ray says the slide definitely works better than like a pencil or a pen. If you can have it wrap around your finger, you have a lot more control. But, say you're in a classroom and you want to try some slide stuff. Everybody's got a pencil. They don't all have a slide. So just keep that in mind. Elise was talking about, asking about the finger in behind the slide, and I talked about that. That's great. Okay. Maria says she likes using the back of a fork. Hey, that's awesome. Okay. Let's take a couple of questions from the chat, because I think we just have time for that. Let me see now. Some questions from the chat. We talked about the slant bar, a couple of good questions about the slant bar. And by the way, we didn't talk about using the slide, playing the slide with the ukulele flat on your lap, which is actually something I really like. I mean, I didn't talk about this in Americana Ukulele, and you can't even see it on the live stream, but I've got this ukulele just sitting on my lap, right, like this. And then I'm just holding a slide or a tone bar. I've got a heavier one. I really like this way of playing. And in fact, I feel like I get better tone out of it. I've got these trailing fingers that really naturally follow the bar. So I also recommend this. It's a little awkward because I like to prop the ukulele up with the tuning pegs on my knee so that there's some, so that it's not angled down toward the ground. So it's a bit of a setup problem. But I will say, if you try this method of sort of lap slide ukulele, and by the way, I actually have had 2 ukuleles commissioned and built especially for that style of playing. And one of them was from Beltona Instruments in New Zealand, and the other one was a beautiful wooden resonator one by Miyamoe Ukuleles with a square neck, so it would sit up on my lap. And we were trying to figure out what we would call this thing. And I said, well, why don't we call it the lap uke? The lap uke, that's exactly what it is. It's a ukulele on my lap. Let's call it the lap uke. And we realized that would spell la puke. And that was the end of that idea. Okay, so if I'm back in standard tuning, here's another one that you should try, just sort of like kind of off the record, as another one to throw in your bag. We've been tuning up and down on the A string, but you can also tune a little bit up on the E string. If you go G, C, F, A, G, C, F, A, this gives you a really beautiful tuning to experiment with. This was the one that I always used for my lap uke. It means that straight across with a bar, you can now play melodies. And I found that this, for melodic playing, was really the ticket. And it's only because you've got that second string tuned to F. Now you can play these scale passages while staying in place, and it kind of combines campanella with slide. And so if you're really looking to go down this road, check out this G, C, F, A tuning. Again, a very small change to the standard tuning opens up this whole sort of parallel universe of musical possibilities. just with one finger. Okay. Let's have a look at maybe one more question. I know, Ray, I'm sorry. The mic is totally in the way today, and I saw that too. I promise I'll try again next time to get that mic in a better place. One last question here from Elise. She's asking about pedals and synthesizers. Especially for the Ukulele X course, and like what I recommend and what I use. I honestly, I think that would be a really good topic for a whole sort of live session, or at least a good whack of a live session, where I actually set up a speaker, I have my pedals, maybe a camera on the pedals, so you can see what I'm doing. The thing I will say with pedals and ukulele is that I often we'll go into this when we do this as a proper topic, but what often catches people's ear, and at the end of a show, if I play something sort of rockin' and distorted, I'll often get people come up to me after the show and they'll say, "What pedal was that? Like, how are you getting that that sort of animal sounding, sort of that beast of a sound coming out of the ukulele? It almost sounds like it's growling and sort of fighting against itself almost. How did you get that sound? What pedal is that?" And they're often surprised that it's just a standard amp simulator pedal. It's the one I use is a Sans amp to get a bit of crunch in the sound. But there's nothing special beyond that. What they're hearing and what they're responding to is the way that I'm using the tuning of, in particular, the baritone ukulele, the combination of a specific tuning and the overdrive to create an effect that sounds kind of otherworldly. I did talk about this a bit in my video on BEBE tuning, and you can find that on YouTube just by searching BEBE ukulele tuning. I guess you would find it, and that's something that I would love to do more on in a future live episode like this, because it's kind of cool, because it sort of dovetails from today's conversation into the conversation of effects and pedals and whatnot, because it's a mix of tuning and effects. It's not just one or the other. It's how the tuning gives the effects box more to work with. It's never going to work just to take an effects box, plug it in, and expect for it to just sound amazing or the way that you dreamed it would sound. It's always going to be a mix of the technique and, in my case, the tuning combined with the effects to give that sort of otherworldly sound. So check out the BEBE tuning tutorial on YouTube, especially the end where I sort of really let loose a bit. And then, I'll earmark that as another topic for a future live session. In terms of synth, I don't use a synth pedal. On my pedal board, I have an octave drop pedal so that I can drop everything a whole octave if I want. I have a amp simulator that I mentioned before, the Sans amp. I have a tuner, and I have a tremolo pedal, which makes the sound go wow, 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 and that's it. That's my whole rig. So I have a very minimal kind of pedal board, nothing too fancy, but I'd be happy to show you at some point if you guys are interested. Yeah. Last thing before we wrap it up, Stephen is asking, do you have a wah-wah pedal? I do not have a wah-wah pedal on this particular board. I used to use the wah-wah pedal all the time as a teenager when I was playing in like garage bands and stuff, and that was super fun. I love wah-wah pedal. I just don't have one right now. It's not a sound that I'm looking for, but they're super fun. And you got to try it. If you've never tried it, the wah wah pedal is very fun. Did you know it was, at least I think, this is what I heard, the wah wah pedal, which is what gives you that wow, chicka, wow, chicka, wow, wow, that kind of a sound, that it was actually invented for horn players, like trumpet players, so they wouldn't have to use a plunger. Can you believe that? Because nobody ever used it on a trumpet. Like no trumpet players ever used the wah wah pedal. It was invented for them, and then, you know, the guitarists come along and say, oh, we'll take that. Thank you very much. Funny how that happens. Two things, kind of housekeeping things. Ray is right on the money. He says, back to the regular schedule next time. And yes, we will be back to the regular schedule time next month. Thank you, Ray. And the second thing is, if you are on the West Coast, or if you are in Toronto, Anne and I will be coming to town very soon. There are some workshops. One of them is already sold out. There are a few spots left in the other two workshops. These are happening in BC, in the sort of greater Vancouver area. And you can just go to jameshillmusic.com and click on the I think it's the tour button to see where we're going to be. So if you have friends in that area, the Vancouver area or the Toronto area, please let them know that we're coming to town. And if you are in those areas, I would love to see you sometime along the way. So please come out and say hi. It'll be great to get back together in person. So I think that's it for now. Thanks so much to everybody for joining me here today. Thank you to Sayara, who's in the chat, being our moderator. I appreciate her help so much. And I look forward to seeing you guys again in a month, if not sooner, in person. So take care, keep on strumming, and I'll see you real soon. Bye for now.